Hello and welcome to this X8R video demonstrating our replacement stainless steel improved design bonnet release cable for Galaxy S Max and Mondeo vehicles. You can see here our complete kit, including stainless steel cable, grease, stop end, and Allen key tool. This allows you to replace your snapped cable in situ, allowing you to release your bonnet successfully. Take a Phillips screwdriver and release the top section of the grommet. You can then insert a pry tool or flat-bladed screwdriver under the top of this grommet to release. This will simply lift out of position. Repeat this for the lower section of the grommet. Piece the two sections of the grommet together for reinstall. Repeat this process for the second grommet. There are two located, one on either side, on the front of this plastic cover covering the lock mechanism. Release the three tabs on the back of the cover and lift out of position. You can now see the lock mechanism. To release the lock mechanism, there are two bolts showing here, on either side of the lock mechanism. These retain a black metal bracket which holds the locking mechanism in position. Take a 10mm socket and release both of these bolts. To the bolt on the right-hand side, there is some wiring in the way. These can be pulled out of position, removing the clips that retain it onto the lock mechanism. Once the two bolts are removed, you can remove the bracket, as shown here. Note this orientation for reinstall. You can then maneuver the latch mechanism out of position. You can see here the cable end, which is the section we need to deal with. You just pull this end out of position from the latch mechanism and release the stop end. If the cable is already snapped, you can pull on this cable to release the remnants of the cable. If it hasn't already snapped, cut the cable here. Pull through any cable that you can from this end. Retain this rubber end here for reinstall. Using a small flat-bladed screwdriver, remove this plastic grommet on top of the bonnet release handle. This will simply pry out of position. There is a square section that you can put the flat-bladed screwdriver underneath to pry this section away. Insert some long nose pliers, compress the two tabs, and release this handle. You can see behind the handle the remnants of the old release cable. This can simply be pulled through to remove all the remnants. We can now install the new cable. Grease up the full length of this cable. Attach this rubber end onto the rubber cable, orientating as shown. Insert the stop end into the release lever. And feed the cable through the start of this bend. Feed the complete length of the cable through. And push the cable through the hole the other end of this tight bend. We find that pushing down the cable from a high position makes it far easier to push the cable through the core. You can then find the end of the cable which has been pushed through on the inside of the vehicle. Pull the length of this cable through tight. You can then push the remainder of the cable through from the bonnet end. As this bend here is quite tight and is where the cable has snapped previously, we put an extra bit of lubricant into this bend. You can lift the sheath back up to cover this bend. And reattach this rubber end. Install the cable end back onto the latch mechanism. This will simply push back into the slot that it was removed from. Then just push the remainder of the cable through. This completes the install of the cable from this end. You can now refit the latch mechanism. The latch does have a recess, shown here, which it pushes into, so it will be retained whilst you get the bolts to re-secure it back into position with the bracket. Reinstall the bracket as shown. This is the correct orientation. And refasten the two bolts. Reattach these wire clips to the latch mechanism, securing the wiring away from the radiator. Now insert a screwdriver into the latch mechanism. First pass the top part of the latch and pass the second part of the latch so it locks into position. Then, on the inside of the vehicle, insert our new stop end with the screw over the end of the cable. Push this up the length of the cable. Ensure the cable is taut but not pulled on to release the bonnet, and position the stop end in the hole on the release lever. Once the stop end is just in the hole, fasten this screw to attach to the cable. We can then cut away the remnants of the cable. A small amount of the cable will protrude from the stop end. We need to release the stop end slightly so that this end is incorporated within the stop end. We can then fully tighten this screw. Take the pliers and grip the stop end and fully tighten this screw as tight as possible. Using the Allen key included, you can grip the top of the stop end and locate it into its recess. Use the pliers to rotate the cable round so it sits correctly in this recess. You can then simply push the handle back on and push the grommet back into position, aligning it with the square recess. You can now pull on this to release the screwdriver from the latch under the bonnet. You can now reinstall the plastic trim cover over the latch mechanism. Again, remember the two sections of the grommet. Just simply push these into position, one after the other, to retain this trim. And click the 3 tabs on the back of the trim cover to secure into position. This completes the repair. You can now test the function of the bonnet release. Thank you for watching this X8R video. If you have any questions, you can call us on 01843 446643, or you can email us at sales@x8r.co.uk. Thank you.